Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as I show you how to start tuberous begonias from seed. So let's go. I've had a lot of success starting begonias from seed. I've typically tried the fibrous begonias, also known as the wax begonias, and I've had a lot of luck with that. And I've in fact collected my own seeds from begonias. I've made a video before showing you how to collect the seeds from a wax begonia plant. However, I've never collected the seeds or started the seeds from a tuberous begonia plant. Typically, you go to a store and you buy the tubers of a tuberous begonia, and you plant the tubers early in the spring or even the late winter just to get a jump start on getting the plant to start growing. And it typically produces a very beautiful plant. I recently found out that you can collect the seeds from a tuberous begonia. And so I tried. And in fact, the seed pod on a tuberous begonia plant looks very similar to the seed pod that you would find on a fibrous or a wax begonia plant. And so I wanted to show you today the seeds that I collected and my process for starting the tuberous begonias from seed. Now I have a laptop in front of me and I'm looking at a spreadsheet that I created where it shows me all the different seeds that I've either bought or collected, and I have it sorted in a nice way so it's all organized for me so I know exactly when to start what seeds. And the tuberous begonia is the first seed that I will be starting for this year. And I'll pop up a card on the top of the screen as well as down in the description. I'll make a link that shows you the video that I created on how I store my seeds, as well as going over the spreadsheet that I created. Also, I'll be sure to put up a card and add in the description the link that I made of the video that showed you how to collect your own seeds from a begonia plant. It is such an easy process, so be sure to check that out if you haven't as well. Now, of all the seeds that I've ever collected, which literally is probably from about 100 plants, maybe even more, I have to say that the begonia seeds are literally like dust. But don't let that deter you from starting them from seed. Typically, when you buy the seeds of a begonia plant, the seeds are pelleted. And there's a reason for that. It's because the seeds are just so fine. They make it easier for you by putting a hard coating or some sort of a pelleted coating around the seed. But that can get very expensive. Typically, when you buy a packet of pelleted begonia seeds, it's very, very expensive, and you only get a small handful of those seeds. That's why I like to collect my own seeds in many cases, but especially for begonia plants. So the supplies that I'm using today are pretty simple. I have my seeds. You definitely need your seeds. And you can see that they're in these small little Ziploc baggies. And that's because these were seeds that I collected myself. And I have 4 different colors of tuberous begonias that I'll be starting from seed. I also have a garden marker. You can use a Sharpie if you want. My experience has been the garden marker works the best. It really does not come off. Even if I get some water and spray it on top of where I wrote, it typically will not wash away. So I like to use a garden marker. And then I like to use some sort of a tray that I can basically sow very heavily all the seeds in. And I actually got these for free from a local garden center. Someone put them in there. It's basically a drop-off pots or take pots as needed. I love that we can do that at this garden center. So I found a collection of 4 of them, which was really nice. And what I really like about them is that they have holes in the bottom. However, you don't need to buy anything like this. You can use even like a takeout container that you get from a restaurant. And the key is you want to make sure that there's holes in the bottom for a good drainage. And the next thing that I have here is I have saran wrap. I want to be able to cover these trays with saran wrap to keep in the humidity. That helps aid the germination of the seeds. So you definitely want to be able to cover the seeds with something. And I've found that saran wrap has worked for me. And what I like about the saran wrap is that I can reuse it a number of times during the growing season. One thing I forgot to mention about these trays here is Even though they're plastic, what I like about them is that I can reuse them from season to season. The most important thing, though, is you want to make sure that you're properly cleaning them in between uses. And I made a video recently showing you how to clean your different seed starting supplies when it comes to trays and things along this line. So be sure that you're very good about sterilizing and cleaning your trays because you don't want to carry over any disease. And then the final thing that I have over here is seed starting mix. And I know it looks funny, it's in a big pot, but basically I made my own seed starting mix because I found it's a lot cheaper to make my own seed starting mix than it is to buy my own seed starting mix. You can do whatever you feel comfortable with. I did make a video recently that shows you how to make your own seed starting mix. And it's actually very simple. You only need a few ingredients. And after I made the seed starting mix, I then sterilized the mix. And I made a video last year that shows you how to sterilize your seed starting mix. And the reason that you want to sterilize it is to kill off any sort of pathogens or anything that's in that mix. And in my case, I'm trying to kill off possible fungus gnat eggs that might be inside this peat moss. It does happen, believe it or not. Fungus gnats find their way into open peat moss bags or even seed starting mix that you might buy in a store. You might not think that there's anything in there that would be harmful to your plants, such as fungus gnats. However, my experience has been it is possible. They can get in there. So I would rather be safe and just sterilize my seed starting mix. And I did that with boiling hot water. If you watch the video, you'll see how my process was for sterilizing the mix. But I think that's one step that's definitely worth trying. And then the final thing that I'll show you later on in the video that I got this year that I've never used before in the 30 years I've been gardening is a heat mat. And I feel that for certain plants, including the wax begonia or the tuberous begonia, I feel like they really can benefit from that bottom heat. So I'll be showing you that setup shortly. So when I refer to my spreadsheet here, I'm just going to share some important information with you. Basically, when it comes to the tuberous begonia, you want to start the seeds about 14 to 16 weeks before your last frost. Here in my zone 5B New Hampshire climate, my last frost typically falls somewhere between the middle to end of May. So I'm giving myself plenty of time to start these seeds. And then when it comes to the depth of the seeds, I'm pressing the seeds just barely into the soil. I do not want to cover the seeds. And the reason for that is because light actually aids in the germination of these seeds. So you just want to barely press them into your seed starting mix. And then I do have a note in my spreadsheet that bottom heat definitely aids in the germination of the seeds. And the temperature should fall somewhere between 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And a new column that I added in my spreadsheet this year was how many days it takes from the day that you planted the seeds until a blossom shows up on your plant. And for the tuberous begonia, it is 119 to 133 days. That is a long time. This will be a great experiment for me. Like I said, I've never done the tuberous begonias before from seed, so I'm very excited to see how this works for me. And from what I've found in my research, after the plants have grown and they've bloomed, they actually will produce a tuber that I can then lift and store during the winter months. We'll find out together if that's true. I can't wait. So when you put a whole bunch of seeds in a tray like this, one of the words I've found that is used is called multi-sowing. And I love doing that when it comes to starting seeds, especially when they're this small. It totally makes sense to multi-sow them. And I'll be sure to show you videos down the line with progress on when these sprout, as well as when I have to transplant them out of this multi-sown container into individual little cells. And when it comes to the seed starting mix, I already put in the boiling hot water. And what I like about that method, not only does it kill off possible fungus gnat eggs, but also now my seed starting mix is pre-moistened. You definitely want to be sure that you're putting pre-moistened seed starting mix into your cell packs or your containers. And I just want to show you, when I'm squeezing the seed starting mix, you can see that it's holding its form. That's important, but also when I'm squeezing it really hard, there's no water dripping from this. You don't want it too wet but you also don't want it too dry. So it should be able to hold its form like that. That's very important. So all I'm going to do here is just add the seed starting mix into the container. And I don't want to necessarily add it to the very top. I don't need to do that. That's just wasting seed starting mix. And also, I'm going to be adding the saran wrap to the top of this container. So really, I could just fill it up to even about halfway, and that would be perfectly fine. So I went around and just pressed all around the container. I wanted to take out any air pockets that might be in there. Of the 4 packets that I have here, I just want to share the colors. I have an orange one that's like a reddish orange color. I have a light yellow one. I have a pink one, which I have very few seeds. I had a really hard time getting the seed pods off of this particular tuberous begonia, but that's a pink one. And then this one here is just an orange one. So what I'll do now is just take you in for a close-up shot of me putting the seeds into this tray here. So you can see here, again, it's a begonia, it's orange color, it's tuberous. I got it from a city that's close to my house, and I collected the seeds in 2023. And look how tiny the seeds are. I don't know how many are in there, but there's quite a few. So when it comes to putting the seeds in here, basically there is no way of avoiding putting too many seeds in one area because there's just not a lot of control because of the seeds being so small. So for taking the seeds out, what I'm going to do is just basically stick my finger in the bag and try to get some of the seeds to stick to my finger. And you can see they're pretty orange. And so I'm just going to go like this. And I am not planning on starting all the seeds in this bag. And one of the reasons is, for whatever reason, maybe none of these seeds germinate. Maybe, I did something wrong or the temperature was off. Who knows? It's better not to do all the seeds at once and just see how many plants actually come up. So you can see now I have no seeds on my finger, and you can't see them in this tray here because they are so tiny. But trust me, they're in there. So the next thing we want to do is just press down, just so that the seeds make good contact with the seed starting mix. And I don't need to add any additional water because the seed starting mix was already pre-moistened. In fact, once I put the saran wrap on, I really should not have to add any more water for a while because there'll be enough moisture and humidity in here. And if I do need to add any water in here after about a week or so when things are looking a little dry, what I'll do is use a small spray bottle and just lightly mist the top of this here. So the next thing I'm going to use is just plain old saran wrap that I have. I'm just pressing down. And then I'm going to use my garden marker. So what I'm going to do is just label this now. And I'm going to put down tuberous begonia. And I know that they're orange. And I'm going to put the date. December 25th. Merry Christmas. I know you can't maybe easily see that, but I just wrote that there. And that leaves enough room so when I start sowing other seeds, I can reuse this saran wrap. And what will happen over the next day or so is I'll start noticing condensation forming on the bottom part of the saran wrap. And that's good. That means that things are heating up nicely in there, but not too hot, and creating a nice humid environment for those seeds to start germinating. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and sow the 3 other trays with the 3 other colors of begonia seeds, and then I'll show you what we're going to do next. Okay, I got the seeds sown in all 4 of these containers. One thing I did want to point out is it's still not too late to buy the seeds for tuberous begonia. So if you didn't collect the seeds, it's totally okay. You still have time. And I know that different websites do sell the seeds for tuberous begonia. So be sure to look on the internet for those if you're looking for the seeds for tuberous begonia. They're out there. Next, we're going to head over to the setup where I'm going to be putting all of these containers. I just wanted to show you the heat mat that I opted for. You can see it's 10 inches by 20.75 inches. And I went with one that has a thermostat on it because I want to be able to control the temperature and know exactly what temperature I'm giving for my seedlings, because it is going to vary from seedling to seedling. So what I did was I set it for 75 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm just going to go ahead and place these containers onto the seed mat. Normally, one 10 by 20 tray would fit on here, but because I'm using these small containers, what's nice is I can actually fit all 4 of them on here. And this part here would just get inserted into one of the 4 containers that I have here. So I'm going to go ahead and insert this in this corner over here. And that's it, pretty simple. And what will happen is I'll be checking these probably every 3 days or so. And I don't need to open all of them. I'll just open one of them and take a peek. The key is with the grow lights, I want to make sure that the little seedlings, as soon as they start emerging, have light. You want to make sure you do that, because if you don't give the seedlings light immediately, they will end up being leggy. But I don't need to necessarily turn the grow lights on yet. So I'll just give it some time, and I'll also do a little bit of research and look at the average amount of days it takes for tuberous begonias to sprout from seed. I think that's important. And if I find that information, I will pop that up on the screen. And also worth noting is I do plan on doing an experiment. I'm going to set up a 5th tray with tuberous wax begonia seeds planted the exact same way that we planted the trays here. The only difference will be that I will not put them on this heat mat. I will have them on the side right next to these, but not on the heat mat. And I want to see how long it takes for the seeds in that tray to germinate when given no heat at all from beneath. I think that will be an interesting experiment. I thought it would be a good idea to pop up on the screen the wax begonias that I started from seed last year. They were very small when they first sprouted, and then eventually they did start blooming, and they look beautiful. So I think it's good for you to see what your begonias can look like when you start them from seed. And check out all the seeds I still have to start. I did a video showing you my organization method for how I organize all my seeds in this type of container. And I have a ton of seeds that I still have to start. And behind me are the grow lights that I will be putting a lot of these seeds under. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, because it is a great time of year to be starting seeds, especially when you can't be doing much out in your gardens this time of year. I love it. I enjoy babying my plants and watching them grow, and I love sharing that knowledge with you. I'll be showing you in future videos the lighting, the light stands that I use, how far you want to have your lights from the seedlings. I'm going to be including how to bottom water your plants, how to fertilize them, how to transplant them, how to pinch them. There's just so much to learn, but it's not overwhelming. It doesn't have to be. You just want to basically follow the process and learn from the process. We all make mistakes. That's part of gardening, but don't give up. And so if you haven't already, start getting your supplies, start getting your seed starting mix, your containers, your seeds, whatever you need. It's not too late. And in fact, I am starting pretty early, but I will be doing this process over the next many months. So you don't want to miss out on that. Have you started any seeds? If so, I want to know, what have you started so far? And if you haven't started any seeds, what are the first seeds you're planning to start? So please add a comment below so that I know what you're up to when it comes to seed starting. Until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.